Welcome, firstly, of course. My name's Hayden. I'm the project coordinator at Healthy Tasmania. And it's great to have you all here today in the second of the Mentally Well series sessions. This is the second of 5. We had one last week and we've got 3 more after today. And we're really excited about bringing you this series today and the next few Wednesday mornings. And of course, this is brought to you on behalf of the Starting Point Neighbourhood House in northern Tasmania. And yeah, what a different world we live in right now. And we're becoming used to it every day, every week. We're learning new things about ourselves and adapting to the changes that are being made. And you probably know this already, being that you are here, that this online series will connect you and give you some tips to support yourself and those around you to look after your mental health during isolation and into the future. And like I said, in case you missed it, last week we had a clown doctor on the topic of laughter is medicine. The next 3 weeks we have staying mentally well in isolation. The next one is best apps and tools to keep you mentally well in isolation. And finally, in week 5, we've got stress management. And today's session, we have Mindfulness Basics. Each session is about 45 minutes long, plenty of opportunity for interaction, and I'll explain how to do this very shortly. So before we start, again, if you're new to Zoom, make yourself familiar with how to use it. So scroll around, it might have to tap your screen if you're on a phone or a tablet. And of course, we appreciate your patience, noting that this is over the internet, and sometimes the world we live in, there can be connection issues and internet problems, or technical or sound issues, but we hope none of that happens today, but bear with us and we'll try to make it as smooth as we can. If we do lose you, rest assured we will be recording this presentation. We are right now, so there will be copies of it placed on the Starting Point Neighbourhood House website, Facebook page, and of course ours, which is the Healthy Tasmania Facebook and website. So you can watch it back later, or if something happens today and you've just got to leave, which you can do so, that'd be great as well. And remember, and noting that your participation in this session is your permission to be part of the recording. We can't see you, we can't hear you, but your questions will be recorded. And of course, they can be anonymous too, so that's something else to note. Just briefly, how will it all work? Well, we have a host from Healthy Tasmania, which is me today, and an expert speaker with us, who we've put through rigours of testing, just joking. And of course, you, wherever you're watching from around Tasmania or possibly the mainland Australia. Okay, so we can all chat and we can all ask questions, and we do want you to be as engaged as possible with these presentations. So we encourage you to use the chat box. So to do so, on the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat icon. Click on that. You can type something in, say hello, say where you're watching. The Q&A option, which is another logo next to the chat, we're going to keep that for questions relating to today's session. So there might be something you think of that's being spoken about in the presentation, and ask that question. And I'll judge when the right time is to ask that question, and our presenter will hopefully answer that for you, and maybe other people that want to know that answer as well. Okay, so is there anything else I have missed? I don't think so. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's presenter. So it's going to be a bit of a change of pace from last week's Laughter is Medicine session. But today we've got Mindfulness Basics, and I'm excited to introduce our expert speaker for today, which is Rosy Green. Rosy, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me on. And yeah, look, for those of you who did see last week with Jenny, I have to say I'm a bit of a disappointment because I am not wearing all the regalia in my hair, neither do I have a whoopee cushion. But it was such a fun session. It was really good, and I think we'll all agree laughter is absolutely great medicine. But the thing is, we don't always feel like laughing. And so mindfulness can come into that space to hold us kind of a little bit gently and safely when we're not actually feeling that good. So I welcome all of you. We can't see you in this format, but just knowing you're there is really lovely. And Hayden's going to sort me out when I might go off track. And please ask questions. So that'll be really lovely. So yeah, I'm Rosy. I've as you probably realise by looking at me, and I can see my lines on my face, I've been around for quite a while. I've been a midwife and nurse and mother for many years. My journey into mindfulness actually began about 15 years ago when, very sadly and unfortunately, I got cancer as a rather young mum with 4 young kids. So this was a really hard and tough time for me. And I came into yoga and I came into mindfulness at that point. And both of them were incredibly supportive, incredibly helpful to me in a very hard time. And I think all of us agree that we go through hard times. Hard times happen, and we are in one hell of a hard time now. So we want to kind of look at ways that we can support ourselves. And all of this whole session, I think, is going to be really good with that. So yay, Healthy Tasmania, for doing this and doing the series. It's wonderful. And what I'm going to be doing is doing a really quick overview, like the what, the why, and the how of mindfulness. Then I want to read a little story, or just talk about a little story that helps illustrate mindfulness. And then actually do a little exercise if you're up for it. So just a tiny little exercise, a little taster of mindfulness. And as we say, there'll be plenty of opportunity to ask questions and be interactive along the way. So, yeah, if that's okay with everybody, we'll get going. And I'm going to see whether I can share the screen immediately. And let's see whether that's coming up. Hopefully. So I've got here, yeah, Hayden's saying he can see it, great. What is mindfulness? So mindfulness, often people think it's about being relaxed and about being quiet, but it's actually not. The most important word in mindfulness is like being aware of what is happening and being aware of what is happening right now. The reason that helps is that then leads us to know what we're feeling actually while we're feeling it. And this leads on to the last thing. When we know what we're feeling, we're able to learn what we need. And then we're able to better provide that. So that's a really quick nuts and bolts way to actually look at what mindfulness is. And in a second, we'll look a little bit more about why. Why mindfulness? Why does it work? What is it? We've heard about it endlessly. People think it's about sort of, sitting in silence for hours on end with those gurus. We're not all like that. We're not mindful in that ancient way, but we can really take on board some of those skills that being mindful, being aware in that present moment can give us. And when we do that, we learn more about ourselves, and we actually learn how to be a little more helpful to others as we are being helpful to ourselves. So the first little thing I thought I might talk about is a little hand diagram. So everybody can actually try this out for yourself. So put your hand up, wave a little bit, even though people can't see. And our hand is going to pretend that this is a brain. So right down here, we have the brain stem that's right in the back of the brain. And this lower part is the part of the brain that just helps us breathe, do all those basic things. And then we have a little bit in the middle of the brain, and we can push our thumb across if your thumb can go across. So push it into the middle a little bit there. And this bit is the emotional brain, deep inside the brain, where all our emotions reside. And this bit on top, if we now pull down those fingers on top, this is this big frontal part of the brain where all the logic is and all the thinking and all that stuff that as humans we know how to do. Now, this is great. We have this logical thinking brain that goes along, but there's one problem. When we get into a state where we're very emotional, we flip the lid. We can't access any of our thinking brain, and we come back to these emotions, which make us feel overwhelmed, and they're just pulsing out. So, yeah, we can drop the hand now, but that is a little demonstration of the brain hand and how when we've flipped that lid, if you like, we're not able to access the emotions. Everything gets out of hand. And what we want to be able to do is use mindfulness or awareness of where we are to soothe a little bit of that brain and gradually bring back our logical brain. So that helps us connect a little better with what we are feeling at the time. So one little more screen I'm going to share now. If I can just get my little share bit up. And this is this model of the 3 circles. Now, we have this little understanding. Oh, I've made it a bit small. I'll make it a little bit bigger again. A little bit of a diagram here of how the brain can work in its emotions. So here are these 3 circles of human emotions. A big one for us is this one down here, this big protecting red threat. A lot of our emotions are driven from threat. We feel like we're under threat. And in COVID, wow, we sure do feel threatened by everything that's happened. This really activates the emotions, gets us feeling stressed, rises our cortisol, our fight, flight. Then we have this other one, this motivating drive. This sends us into a frenzy where we might not be able to sleep at night. If anybody's had that, where the mind is racing, they're doing 100 lists, they can't stop, we're in drive. And the next circle is this little tiny one, and I'm smaller than the other, sadly. Another really important part of our emotional system is the soothing and calming system, often highly neglected, and often one that we don't respond to. And the soothing and the calm brings contentment, makes us feel connected to others, makes us feel secure. And sadly, we don't have a lot of that in our lives, especially in a time of COVID where we're so unsure of what's going on. So that's just a very simple overview of what is going on with our brains and why it's very, very logical that we should be feeling agitated, and that when we feel overwhelmed, we kind of flip our lid and we don't really know how to control our emotions very well, quite often. So mindfulness can be a really useful pathway. And in a minute, we'll look at how we do that, how we can use these skills to ground us and to grow that little tiny neglected green circle, grow our calm so it actually is able to be in a little bit more balance. So if that's okay with everybody, what I'll do is I'm just going to sort of talk about a little bit of a story now. And this story might just help us clarify what's going on when we're thinking about mindfulness. So some people say that learning to be mindful is about reminding ourselves of what we already know and also rebodying ourselves. So coming back in to the body. If we can remember back to when we were little kids, we were so absorbed in things that happened in the present moment. You know, we could play for hours with little cars or little toys. We could watch ants moving. We could look at the sky, and we could really be present. And what happens, of course, unfortunately, is as we grow, we start to store a lot of things, memories, experiences, hurts, responsibilities for others, mortgages, houses, fears, jobs, everything piles up. Now, we might imagine that all of that is kind of piling into the attic of our mind. So imagine all of these things stored in this attic, maybe all jumbled up, maybe all in darkness. And everything that we're thinking about can crowd it out. So thinking about what we've got to do in the future, racing into drive and caught up with everything we need to be doing and we're not sure about. And also being caught up in the past, being really, really wound up with past hurts, with things that have happened, with things that feel emotional and hard for us. And all of this can be caught up in this kind of really big attic of the mind. And this, when we start to stumble about in this dark attic, can mean that we fall over things, if you like. We're trying to work our way through our mind in the darkness, and we might stumble over, fall over these memories, find they come up out of nowhere. They kind of hurt us. And if we think of mindfulness, it can be like we are learning to point our awareness. Remember in the very first slide, I was talking about awareness. That awareness can be like a little torch. So we start to shine the torch in the attic of our mind, and it starts to really allow us to see what's happening. And as we shine this little torch in our mind, we start to realize that we can notice what's happening. We don't have to have all these things come out of the blue and really hurt us all the time. We can actually learn to see with our awareness what is happening and help protect ourselves a little bit more. So the torch starts to shine and maybe shines a little bit more and starts to open up. And now we start to see all of these shapes in our attic. And we're starting to really grow and see what's happening in this dark attic of our mind. And gradually this, as we practice the skills, can get bigger and bigger so we can see the attic and even outside the attic, and eventually go out and look back at that sky. And that sky can be like coming back into that very early, simple, open place that we were when we were young, when we could just be there in the present. So there's a little story about mindfulness and how it works, and I'm sure you may have many more other questions. And we'll go and do a little practice in a minute, and just so we have a try of it and see what it feels like. You may have done it before, you may have not, but first of all, I think it's great to get some questions maybe. So yeah, Hayden, any questions at all?
Yeah, thanks, Rosie. Brilliant start, if I don't say so myself. I've got a couple of questions for you. So the first one is by one of our attendees, Nettie, who's asked, what happens if it continues to be overwhelming?
Yeah. So when emotions get overwhelming like that, that's a really great question, Nettie. What we use is we use our kind of grounding technique of mindfulness. And what we do is we open ourselves up to a whole range of other senses. Because very typically, remember I was talking about how we focus on things that happened in the past, or we focus on things in the future. Those things tend to be very much in our mind. You know, we're stumbling around in that dark attic. With mindfulness, we start to open up to a whole range of senses of what is happening right here, right now. So we start to think about how our body feels, what it's like sitting here, what we can hear, what we can smell. Maybe even as something as simple as what our hands feel like. And what that does is it grounds us and it brings us back right now to this moment. And it actually relieves a little bit of that pressure of the emotions. So I hope that's answered a little bit. And we might in a second get to practice that when we do our little practice. And of course, there's a whole more to learn. And one more thing I better say, mindfulness, learning to be mindful, learning what we need is a skill that takes time, like any other that we do. So we didn't learn to read or get on a bike or learn to walk or do any of these things without falling over a million times and practicing again and again. So we're just practicing. We're not expecting ourselves to know how to do all of this stuff. We're just really going kindly and gently into it, exploring, seeing what's there. So, yeah. Any other
Right.
question?
Yeah. So we had an anonymous question. What happens if I can't clear my mind? Is it even worth trying?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking that, Hayden, or whoever asked it. That is a really classic question. Most people feel that if they can't get their mind really calm and really empty and clear, then they're not going to be able to do it, not going to be able to get it right. But actually, if our mind is clear and empty, that's a worry. We're not very well. We're not well at all because minds are busy. And minds will continue to talk, yabber, say things, remember, think. All of that's going to go on. And that is really, really natural. What we're doing is we're taking the little lens of that torch and focusing our awareness on what is happening right now. And that focus of attention is really very, very valuable. So basically, anybody, anytime can do it because we're reminding ourselves in a way of what we could do when we were little. And that is focus in on something, really be in the flow. So yeah, anybody with any sort of mind, however busy, however stressed, can find these little moments where we are linking into what's happening right now. And we'll do that in just 1 second. So lovely chats and comments coming in, which is really, really lovely to see.
Some lovely stories as well about, personal experiences with mindfulness, which is great. And yeah, that's really nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good to see. So, I've got a little bit of a vested interest, let's face it. But it's always good to see. And the thing is, when we remember that we're just reminding ourselves and in a way rebodying ourselves, reminding ourselves of all our senses, then we can start to get to that place where we think, hey, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can, because it's kind of there inside us, underneath all those layers and boxes and hurts and things that are piling up in our attic. So what I'm wondering is if now is a good time to actually have a little practice of it. Shall we do that? I was thinking just about a little 5 minutes. And this is where we just get to practice the skills, because until you actually do it, it's a bit like reading a menu in a restaurant. All very well. The food looks lovely, but it's not the same as tasting it. So let's just have a little go. And the first thing that would be really great is to get yourself into a comfy position. So if you're sitting up, then find yourself in a really nice sitting position. Or if you're lying down or sitting in a car or wherever you are, make some adjustments, that's right. Do some stretching and moving and get all the wrinkles out. And then, when you're ready, start to actually come in and find a little bit of stillness wherever you are. It might feel okay for you to completely shut your eyes or rest your eyes down. You might just want to make a soft gaze, a soft focus. And already, even in just doing this, we're coming into the present moment. We're noticing where we are. Noticing how we've placed the body. We might get the sense of really feeling into whatever we're sitting on. Feeling our body perhaps even sink a little deeper. Letting go just a little bit. Sinking and settling. We're just noticing the sensations of sitting here. We might start to notice sounds. Sounds all around us. The sound of my voice. The sounds in your environment. And knowing these sounds can all come and go. There's nothing we really need to do. We're kind of sitting in the middle of whatever's going on around us. Shining our little torch of awareness on our body, sitting here, listening to whatever's happening right now. We might feel into the hands, noticing where we've placed the hands. In our lap or by our sides. Noticing the hands. And as we feel into the hands, we might notice buzzing or tingling. We might notice nothing at all. There's no right and no wrong. We're just sending our attention there, into the hands. Allowing whatever we notice to be just fine. And maybe even getting a sense that wherever our hands are, they're sending us a little support. They're sending us some care, some tenderness. The touch of our own hands. Some people might even want to start to notice the breath. Just feeling what it feels like when we breathe in and feeling what it feels like when we breathe out again, very simply. And if that doesn't feel right, no matter at all, you might notice the shoulders gently lifting and gently falling with every breath. This precious breath that supports us, keeps us going. This present moment experience that we so often ignore, with our mind racing off to future or past, worries, doubts, concerns. No matter. Let all of that be there. Maybe thoughts come up or emotions tug us. It's all okay. We're just holding ourselves gently here. Perhaps noticing our emotions, our thoughts, just as we would the sounds. We're just sitting in the midst of it, not needing to do anything, not needing to be anywhere else in this moment. Starting to be aware once more of the body, sitting here in this space. Starting to be aware of the soft support of whatever we're sitting on or lying on. Being aware of the soft touch of our hands wherever they are. Offering a little moment of support. Savouring this little moment. And when you're ready, gently starting maybe to move the fingers, move the toes, and stretch the body up. And come back in. Maybe roll the shoulders. How are we? How is that?
Good from my end. Very relaxed.
Relaxing. So
I was worried I was going to fall asleep, and this webinar would go on for 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah. Oh, great. I can see a few things coming in. Yeah. Look, it's interesting because the whole purpose of this is actually to just be aware, but the end result can be that we're actually coming into calm. So most of you, if you're feeling a little bit like, oh, low, quiet, relaxed, that means we're really activating that green circle of calm and connectedness. And the good news is it's something that's so simple. We can just do it anytime we remember. I stick a few very high-tech sticky notes around the place. That works for me. Some people have something on their phone. I just have a little sticky note next to the fridge or near the kettle, and it says, breathe. And I just suddenly remember, oh yeah, this is what I need to do. So I was going to put up one tiny last slide just about the benefits, what's shown in the research about this. So here we can see what those benefits are. It clears and calms. We've noticed is that. It is actually working to change the body metabolism. So stress hormones, which cause high sugar levels, high blood pressure, are reducing. It helps improve our lifestyle because we actually start to feel a bit better about things. We're not so constantly in that endless drive and threat, feeling so stressed, feeling so emotional. It can help our relationship, and we learn to feel more compassion both for ourselves, and then that radiates out to others. It can improve the way we cope with life and definitely enriches our enjoyment because we're savouring the tiny moments, just like we savoured actually feeling our hands and recognising what they do and the breath. So I guess I've talked quite a lot now, as I do. And it's a whistle-stop tour. It's really hard to get this all in such a tiny thing, but I do want to have the last little time opened up for any more questions that might be there, and also to reassure you that there's a lot of other places that you can go from here. I've sent Hayden some links which he can put up onto the site for places that I run meditations, and there are so many more things more out there. And I think you've got a lovely guy called David Backer coming in a couple of weeks' time. He's really going to talk through some apps, but there are some also wonderful mindful apps you might have come across. There's one called Smiling Mind, which is great, and there's another one called Insight Timer. Free, and absolutely masses of them. So much I get confused, but yeah, there's a lot of support out there to help you be mindful, even if it's just for a few minutes a day.
Rosie, would you be able to repeat them so I can just type them in the chat now for those that are interested?
So the apps, I've got Smiling Mind, which is a great app. I think you have to pay just a little bit for that, but it might be the price of a cup of coffee. And the other one is Insight Timer. So Insight Timer is free. It's an app that has absolutely bucket loads. There are also other ones that are out there. I think there's the Black Dog Institute has some apps, and Beyond Blue. So there's just a load of resources out there. Yeah.
Great.
So I'm aware we've got 5 minutes left, and we really probably should get some questions out.
Yeah, well, I've got a few to kickstart, if that's okay. We have an anonymous question about how do you wake up from the feeling of wanting to sleep afterwards?
After meditation, how do you wake up? Well, that's when it's really good to get up and move and move around, and just really sort of coming into the body, perhaps doing some movements of the body that you know your body wants to do. So really spending a few moments focusing on, where's my body stiff or tight, or where do I want to move it? So that can be really valuable. The other thing is that mindfulness doesn't have to be done while you're sitting still. And for some people, it works better for them to walk mindfully. And by that, I mean you can walk into nature and just spend time looking at the trees, at the moment, the rain, the clouds, whatever's out there, can really help you because you're just focusing on what you're seeing in the moment. And that's pure mindfulness. So easy to do.
Great. We'll have to just keep moving through these. Rosie. So the next one through Nettie is, how often should we do it? Now, that's a really good question, that one.
Yeah, should is a big hard thing. It feels like we're kind of ticking ourselves off. And one of the things here, one of the programs I run, which is about self-compassion, is learning to be kind to yourself. Because when we're harsh, boy, do we give ourselves a hard time and add to our stress. So if we can find about 10 minutes in a day to practice a little bit of mindfulness, it certainly builds up. And that's been shown in research to actually help build connections in the brain, to actually shine that torch in the brain. And they're finding a lot of exciting things about that. Now, it doesn't have to be all at one time though. You could build it up incrementally over the day so that you were doing a few minutes here and a few minutes there. Alternatively, you could spend longer. It's like anything, like learning to play the piano. We really know that when you practice something, you get better at the skill. And that's just, up to you.
Great. I think we've about 90 seconds left. So the next question is, can you put up the 3 sentences from the start, please?
Sure.
And yeah, I think it was the ones, might have been that first thing you shared, I reckon.
Yeah. How's this? What is mindfulness? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one, I reckon.
Yeah, so there we go. Just leave that up. Noticing it's all about being aware of what's happening, not about being relaxed. That might be a benefit.
Yeah.
And if we do feel relaxed and sleepy, yay. Good one. It's better than feeling stressed and anxious.
Okay, well, I think we are on time to conclude today. Like last week, that went really quick. We really appreciate you, Rosie, for jumping on and delivering your mindfulness basics today. I know you do this quite regularly, and it often takes a lot longer than 45 minutes to really explain and elaborate on. So I think you did really well to condense it. So thank you. For everyone else, if you have any feedback or you'd like to let us know how we're going, you can email us, which is at admin, so admin, at healthytasmania.com.au. And I have put that in the chat if you'd just like to copy and paste that. Otherwise, we'll see you again next week for a really exciting session, which is staying mentally well in isolation. So we're really looking forward to that. But otherwise, thank you, Rosie.
Not a problem. And I will say that one of the things that are up there for the Anamkara meditation that you'll put the link for is we're running daily free meditations. So hop on. It's via Zoom. Love to see you there.
Great. And I think I have put that in the chat, everyone. So you just might have to scroll up a little bit, but I might just copy and paste that right now in the chat. Paste, there we go. So hope everyone's had a good day. Remember, if you know someone who was keen to watch this and missed it, we are recording it and we will be uploading it to the Facebook pages and websites. So hopefully they can watch it back whenever it suits them, and it might not be tomorrow, it might not be next week, it might be a month or two, but whenever it is, I'm sure they might find it useful. Cheers. Okay, I'll end that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.